We return once again to our trek through the Gospel of Matthew. We find ourselves in Matthew chapter 13, and we are going to read verses 16 and 17. I will be reading from Beck's translation. Matthew 13 and verse 6. Happy are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. Let me assure you, many prophets and righteous people long to see what you see and didn't see it, to hear what you hear and didn't hear it. I will give you a short take on these verses. If you want the longer version, especially on verse 17, turn to the book of Hebrews chapter 11. To understand Hebrews chapter 11, you need to read the last two verses, which is 39 and 40. And this is what the NIV records in Hebrews chapter 11, 39 and 40. These were all commended, referring to the heroes of the faith, that's chapter 11, for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised. God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us they would be made perfect. To understand Hebrews chapter 11, you have to understand that there was a side of which the people of the Old Testament era were looking forward to something that they never found. It is not by accident that we as Christians have a Bible in two parts, with one section considered old and one section considered new. We can say that the word new can carry two distinct but related senses. Here I'm not talking of the biblical language, but of our own use of the word new. New can be used as a near synonym for recent, and that way new means coming after what is old. When we use new in terms of the New Testament, while it has that sense, it is not the primary sense. We use the word new to speak of what is different. We can illustrate what we mean from the world of technology. The 8-track system, popular in the early 1970s, was a new technology in comparison to the phonograph player, far earlier in the 20th century. Or digital music is a new technology in comparison to the cassette, late 70s, 80s. Jesus came to bring something that is fundamentally different. It is something that is pointed to in the pages of the Old Testament. Again, that's what it says at the end of Hebrews chapter 11. These people were looking for something, but did not find it. They had to await our era, the era of the new covenant. The people of the Old Testament era looked for it, but never experienced. An old technology can create in some people, though, a nostalgia for what is seen as the good old days. But there is a reason why old technology is left behind. I had at one time a modest record collection. Records, or LPs, as in long playing. If you have moved your household belongings a few times in that era, you soon came to appreciate the problem with records. Records were heavy and cumbersome to move. I have no nostalgia for this form of technology. If you move with any sort of frequency, it is a whole lot easier to move when your music collection is digital. Yet even as I'm no fan of LPs, I know there are people who miss the distinctive sounds that those records bring. There's nothing like a good scratch on an LP to improve the music. Or how about a warped record? We understand in part which drives the nostalgia is not the technology, it is the music, and in particular certain artists that people identify with as they grew up as music of and from their era. Music and artists that have come and gone. This nostalgia blinds people to the deficiency of this old technology. If we are not too exacting, we can say that the Old Testament in comparison to the New Testament is like the comparison of an old technology to a new technology. The phonograph worked. It provided music. It did its job, sort of. The movement from analog to digital technology is like night to day. I understand at the level of nostalgia how people like the old records. The covenant in the Old Testament is that old analog technology with all of its wheezes and whistles. The covenant of the New Testament is a state of the art digital technology. Jesus came to bring not that which is new in time, but new in a fundamentally different sort of way. Yes, the new covenant builds off the old, but the new covenant takes us places where the old covenant could not and would not.